The Fantasmagorium show is proud to present Money, Murder, and... Why am I Irish? Money, Murder, and Minnesota, a retrospective of all things Fargo. Season 5 of Fargo. Linda. No, but seriously, do you need us to put on a puppet show? The award-winning Coen Brothers executive produced and Noah Hawley run FX series of Fargo is what we are here for. So let's go. Kat is here. I am Scotty R37, and Steve is trading cars. What's going on, Kat?
Not
Did
much.
you want to talk about domestic abuse?
Sure, why not?
Yeah, it seems like a thing that we could do. This is an insane and yet artistically amazing representation of that subject.
It is. I read an article from Noah Hawley today saying that they were trying to figure out how to approach it, because on the one hand, it could get too dark and too serious even for Fargo too quickly. But on the flip side, he says you can't push it too far, otherwise it becomes ridiculous.
Right.
And it's like, how do you actually do that? I admit, while I was watching it for a while in this episode, I was almost ready to tap out after how heavy-handed last week was. Not that I quit watching it, but like I was almost on the verge of losing interest, because it's like it was pushing it way too far. And then you see that, I mean, there are a lot of red flags that I was already picking up on. It's like, oh, okay. But it does work pretty well.
We don't in this episode, sorry about the coughing. But in this episode, we don't get any no Dave Foley, no Jennifer Jason Leigh. We are as removed from that world as we were removed from Dot in the last episode.
This is also the third episode in a row where Whit Farr has not shown up.
But I like Whit. Well, I know. And also we don't get the what's her name? That their brown police lady. Yeah,
Indira Olmstead isn't in it. But I thought it was odd because the guy playing Whit Farr, Lamorne Morris, he's got top billing as one of the 6 or so main cast members on the show. Mm-hmm. Whereas Dave Foley does, this guy's barely in it, and Dave Foley has logged more episodes in screen time, and yet he's considered like supporting, or every once in a while I don't get the logic there. However, those contract negotiations work, because again, Whit Farr has been gone for 3 episodes and has had next to no impact on the show. He's just kind of there in the back, trying to pick up the rear, so to speak. Is trailing it, but pretty far behind.
Are you disappointed by the lack of Whit?
I'm just surprised, because he seemed like he was going to be a go-getter early on, mm-hmm. and he wasn't about to take Gator's shit when he was in the evidence room. He didn't report Gator for stealing stuff either, because he's like, no, I'm going to handle this type of thing. And now he's just kind of gone. We don't really know what he's been doing or where he is. But I'm just kind of surprised.
Kind of feels like he kind of feels like a Key and Peele situation, and I apologize for any of the allegories towards all of them being of darker skin. But
he's not a comic character though.
He's not a comic character. No,
like those two were.
Well, true.
Yeah.
God, my hair looks ridiculous. I've been trying out pomade. Anyway, so can you get us through the plot?
Yeah, and I'm going to tell it out of order, because Dot's whole thing will be its own thing. Okay. So we begin with.
So the answer is no.
I'll get you through the plot. I'll just do it out of order. So the actual cold open is turns out the old lady that Munch has been staying with has a son, and we don't know where he's been. It's not really addressed. He just shows up, immediately yelling at her. Where's the rest of the money? She's like, well, the disability checks don't come in until next week. I had to stretch. He's like, well, maybe if you don't buy 100 packs of beer, it wouldn't be an issue. And then in walks Olay, and he's like, who the hell is this guy? And he's like, I live here now. And he's like, oh yeah, what are you paying? I'm the landlord. How much you paying? Trade. Like, huh? Like a guard dog stands out front of the house and guard and gets it. He cuts him off. And he's like, no, I'm the landlord. That's this freeloading. Your freeloading days are over. You give me money. And so Olay just takes a big wad of bills out of his pocket that he presumably got from Roy, and he gives it to him. And the guy's like, oh, okay. You give me this once every month. And he's like, I'll be back when I go buy some stuff or whatever. And he just leaves. And the lady doesn't seem to have much of a reaction to this. And Olay just makes the decision. And then we cut to that scene from the preview, from the series trailer, I should say.
Oh, no, wait. Hang on. He leaves with the money? Like, the son leaves with the money.
Yeah, he takes the money.
Doesn't give any to the old lady. And then
he just pockets it, and he's going to go blow it on whatever.
Isn't that when Munch comes at him with an axe?
Yes, like I said, they recreate the shot from the movie where Geir Grimsrud kills the Steve Buscemi character with the axe, down to him spinning around and being like, wait, no, and then it cuts to black right as he swings the axe at him.
It's amazing. It's actually really startling.
Right, and it does have its purpose. Meanwhile, we see that Wayne is gone back to work. He's in his office. Scotty's with him, and the salesman comes in saying that there's a family here who wants to trade in their car for some credit towards a new car. And he's like, and Wayne's like, okay, so what about it? And he's like, well, their credit's so bad, it's not going to happen. But they're offering a car, trade a car for a car. Yeah, but the blue book doesn't. It's not going to work. But they have a car, they'll trade. No, that's not how capitalism works, boss. And he's like, Wayne just doesn't care. He's like, no, a trade. I gave you you gives us a car, we're giving them a car, like the Bible, like the good book says, which is same thing Olay basically just said to the son before he killed him. It's a trade. Like I'm the guard dog here, and so to speak. And so,
but like, what? Do you believe how simple Wayne is now?
Well, yeah, because he's still, he did get shocked and he's a bit flustered. The fact that he's gone back to work already, when he's still, that kind of out of it, or maybe it's not so much that he's out of it. Maybe he just doesn't care. He just feels more charitable, and he talks about how and the guy's like, okay, boss. And he goes to tell the family that they can have the car, and the kid's like, yippee! And he sees this, and Wayne sees this, and he's happy, puts a smile on his face, and he tells Scotty they're going to the grocery store, get some stuff and things for mom. And she's like, oh, is mom coming home tonight? And he's like, oh, no, sorry, I got confused again. And she's like, oh, that's all right, Daddy. So then we cut back, again, doing this a little out of order. Later that night, Gator.
Guys, I'm going to get to the chat in a second, but I want to hear how Kat explains this because I feel a bit like Wayne.
Yeah, so Gator, meanwhile, decides to go against his dad's advice because last week he was telling his dad, Dad, the guy's here, let's just kill him. It'll be over with. We can kill Olay. We don't have to deal with it anymore. It's like, son, we tried this multiple times. It didn't work. The election's next week. We can't screw around with this. We're just going to pay the guy, and if you get him, we'll have him being an extra option. He can get her, which I thought was funny, and another No Country reference where it's like you don't pick the one, you pick the one right tool, but no, now I'm going to send more people out. I'm going to send him back out there. But Gator has decided this week that he's going to take it upon himself to deal with this, and it seems like perhaps putting the tracker on the car was Gator taking his own initiative rather than his dad telling him to do that, because Gator has tracked the car back to Bismarck. He parks across the street. He sees the silhouette of Olay up in the window, rocking in the rocking chair, as we know him.
Yeah, or so he thinks. In my mind, it's a Kevin McAllister.
And so Gator gets out of the car with a rifle, and he shoots the guy right in the head, splattering blood on the wall. Gator's pleased with himself that he's done it, but then we see inside that it's actually the corpse of the woman's deadbeat son that Olay has sat in a chair, and he's tied a rope to the rocking chair to rock it. And Olay strangely doesn't have a reaction to this, even though he clearly suspected that Roy would try and betray him because he set the trap. Even though it wasn't Roy that betrayed him, it was Gator doing this on his own.
I took it as he wasn't surprised by the betrayal. He was just waiting to be betrayed.
No, he was waiting for it, yes. But as we know, this is Gator taking his own initiative. His dad didn't tell him to go and do this. And his dad was at a level where he wasn't really going to trust Gator to get the job done. And so Olay strangely has no reaction to this, even though he must have expected it was going to happen. He just continues rocking in his own rocking chair in the hall like it's not a big thing. And meanwhile, Gator walks across the street and sees and retrieves the tracking device from Olay's car, and he notices the money in the back seat, no longer in the trunk. So he's like, oh man, what's going on? So he swings around and breaks the window of the car with the butt of the gun, and he's reaching in to get the money. And then we see the old lady has returned from another grocery store run for beer and a bag of oranges. And she's like, thief! Oh. And she strikes him in the head with a bag of oranges and starts hitting him.
It's not oranges, it's tomatoes.
Tomato. Are you sure? It looks like, no, they were oranges.
No, they were tomatoes.
They were orange. They were tomatoes.
They were tomatoes.
They were orange. 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 They were orange.
I will say this with confidence. First things first, I will say with confidence. Remind me about the tomatoes or oranges. But I do want to say hello to Lemon Pie and DVB in the chat. DVP says, sorry, I've never seen the Fargo series. Well, you're in luck. It's a good show. You should watch it. DVB goes on to say, I have seen the movie, though. Yeah, if you like the movie.
You love the show.
Yeah.
So
DVB goes on to say, I'm just here to hear what Scotty says next.
Yes. So anyway.
No, I'm going to go through the chat, Kat.
Well, why didn't you wait for me to finish describing the scene before you moved on?
Because I'm busy. So DVB says, sorry if this is a dumb question, but the Fargo series is based off the movie or spin-off kind of thing. It's all in the same universe, I think.
It's in the same universe. It's a spin-off, and the first season had a reference to something from season 1, from the movie, and then season 2 references something that they mentioned multiple times in season 1. Season 3 is its own thing with its own season 1 reference in there. Season 4 is like a prequel to season 2, which was a prequel to season 1, and now season 5 is its own thing. But they all take place in the same universe.
There has been a snow, like an ice scraper. I don't know why this is the mine for ice scraper.
And I'm not going to say where, but the money that Steve Buscemi's character buried did turn up again and play a role in the series.
Steve Buscemi shows up?
It's not a remake or a reboot. It's still within the same universe, just different storylines.
Lemon Pie is here. Lemon says, DVB, it's a great show. Season 1 and 2, in my opinion. Someone told me that like Kirsten Dunst was mid. And I was like, shut up. Is it based off the movie? And so anyway, DJ Play Nice is here. You guys have a little
here to say hey and boost the algorithm. Have a great show. Thanks, DJ Play Nice.
And Phantom Organist.
I'm here to see Kat and Scott. Thank you, Phantom Organist.
Thank you.
I love your picture there. That's pretty cool.
It is pretty dope. It looks
like your picture on your Zooms and StreamYard links.
It's like a pipe organ.
Yeah, exactly. Looks kind of threatening and bloody.
And DVB, we are not always courteous, but when we can be, we're happy to do so. So anyway, I'm going to put a pin in it. And what was I asking about?
So the old lady starts attacking Gator for breaking into the car, and she's like, thief, thief. And he shoves her back too hard. She falls and cracks her skull open on the sidewalk and is dead. And
yes,
Gator is clearly disturbed by this because he didn't intend to kill her. So he just grabs the money and the gun and flees. And this is the strange bit because, again, Olay set this trap. He suspected that he was going to be betrayed, but he didn't feel any sense of urgency to come outside to see who shot the corpse in the window. He just kind of waltzes onside, having not seen or heard what just happened. And when he sees the old woman dead on the pavement, he's got real look of genuine anguish on his face. Because even though he hasn't really shared many words with the old woman, he has been like bonding with her, and he's genuinely really upset with a hint of anger because it's like, I've accepted your apology, your penance, if you will, and now you've betrayed me anyway. And so he's not taking it anymore. Yeah.
He's taken advantage of her, or at least he's said, like, it's been an unspoken bond of protection or something.
Yeah, because he compared himself. He says, like a guard dog, you give it a piece of steak, guard your house. And he wasn't so much, it didn't seem like he was so much guarding the house because he didn't seem to be doing anything for her. He was just there, and she kind of was weirded out by him, like covered in blood and mud. What do you want? And he's like, oh, pancakes. So it's like.
I remember. You think it's oranges. I think it's tomatoes because I saw them and I was thinking of the oranges from The Godfather. How oranges were a harbinger of doom. And I was like, what an interesting sort of correlative cinematic flourish, which I enjoyed in the episode. If they were oranges, then it's a direct reference. I thought that they were tomatoes, which was sort of an homage. But hey, if they're oranges, it's more like The Godfather than I thought.
Okay, that's interesting, actually. So Olay is really upset. He's not going to, and now we're left to wonder what he's going to do, but we don't see any more of him in this episode. Meanwhile, the same night, we see that Wayne is sitting on the back steps at Lorraine's house, looking at the stars, kind of daydreaming or whatnot. And Scotty comes along. He's like, "Dad, it's time to read a story." He's like, "Huh?" He's like, "Time to read a story." He's like, "Oh, okay." So he goes inside upstairs. Scotty's tucked into bed. He gets into bed with her, and he's like, "You forgot the mango's in freaking January." That's right.
It's kiwis. It's kiwis, Lemon.
It's January and or July and January.
Who cares? Shut up. That's season 1. Fuck off.
I know. So she's like, "Dad, you forgot the book." And he's like, "Oh." And he just kind of looks on the side and he mimes like he's picking up a book. He's like, "What are you doing, Dad?" He's like, "Oh, it's a book. I'm going to tell you a story about a tiger named Dot." And he talks about how the lengths that the tiger, the amount that the tiger will put up with and how tough they are and all the hoops they're going to jump through to protect their family and all that type of stuff. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was kind of sweet that it shows that Wayne has clearly been, like, he's not just completely aloof of everything. Like, he's starting to, he has been piecing it together a bit. He knows, he understands what the FBI told him is true, that she's she's from somebody else. We don't know if Lorraine told him anything about Roy coming to the house. Probably not. But he believes that because Scotty presumably told Wayne, "Oh, Mommy left me here and said she needed to take care of something," he believes that. And so he's impressed, and he's just kind of, still not all there and probably shouldn't be at work, but, he's still.
Yeah, no, he's out of it. No.
Yeah, it's still nice to see that he, is kind of impressed by it, picks up on it.
Well, but I think also it's something where Wayne he's realizing, I don't know, maybe I really enjoyed Juno Temple's performance as Dot, and I am biased. I am in love. And so, like, she's an expert ninja, apparently. She's a MacGyver assassin, apparently. And she's just picked all of this up through, I don't know, television. And, like, she's amazing. And when Wayne is, like, telling that story to Scotty, it's not so much that he's, like, realizing what she is. It's kind of fulfilling what he thought she always was. Because he was always in awe of her anyway.
Yeah.
Like, I just think and maybe I'm overstating it. Maybe I'm, like, fucking throwing out red carpets where they don't belong. But, like, I do think that you have to have some sort of love in a Fargo story. I don't care where it comes from. And so far, we've got our, is Dot a MacGuffin? Is she our protagonist? Is she the antagonist? She's trying to, I don't know what she is.
She's not antagonizing anything. Roy is the one antagonizing the situation by interfering with everybody's lives.
Well, and let's get to what the shit Roy's done.
Well, speaking of which, I think that my prediction, which I'm going to mention for the Olay and Gator storyline, because Daniel, because that's what in this episode is, I think Gator's going to go back and tell his dad what he did. He's going to be very proud of it, or he thinks he's going to be, Gator's going to think of himself proud. But once Olay does whatever he does, I think that's going to be the straw that breaks the camel's back between the relationship of Roy and Gator. Like, Roy is probably going to be so pissed off because I have a feeling Olay is not just going to come back to leave any arcane symbol on the wall this time. Like, he's coming for blood this time. And whatever he does, I think that's just going to send Roy over the edge, and Gator will probably not have anything to do with, like, because we get the hint that Gator is not only is he not cut out for this, he just wants to live up to his dad. He's not really, he's kind of like when he had to psych himself up before they went for the kidnapping. Like, this isn't really who he is at deep down. And I think that's going to be what breaks it, because certainly this isn't going to go well, because this is Gator thinking he was going to do the hero thing. I'm going to take my own initiative. I'm going to press my dad. He'd be so happy with me. And I don't know.
At the end of the show, who do you think is going to kill Roy Tillman? Is it going to be Gator, or is it going to be Dot?
It's got to be Dot, especially after I describe what happens in this episode.
Yeah.
But I think Lorraine and Gator might have something to do with it as well.
Can you talk about the cult of Lindas?
Yes, so this is out. It'll be apparent at the end of the description why I wanted to get the other stuff out of the way first. So
Sure.
we see that Dot has gone on this journey where she's taken the car from the dealership. She's driving
a
out.
Kia.
We don't know exactly where she's going at first, but she stops at this truck stop, goes into the diner, and she looks on the wall and she sees ads for this puppet show and ads for this chicken frittata recipe, and there's a postcard for Camp Utopia. And she's kind of just looking around at all of this and allows herself to daydream for a second. And then the waitress interrupts her and puts a plate of pancakes on her in front of her. And she has arranged the butter and the berries to look like a smiley face.
Right.
And Dot responds well to that. And she kind of smiles about it. And then from there, we follow Dot driving further down the road in the middle of nowhere in the plains. And at first, when she pulls over by the fence, I thought, is this going to return to the money again? From season 1? But
yeah.
But I thought that for a second, and then no, but that's not it.
They do this signage with like Camp Utopia all over the place.
Oh, they do. And so she gets out of the car, climbs over the little barbed wire fence, and goes to this abandoned windmill. And there's a little cache stuffed underneath it, and she's kind of disappointed and surprised to see that there's really nothing in it other than a Camp Utopia postcard, the same one from that truck stop. And written on the back, it just says, "I'm sorry," signed Linda. And Dot is kind of confused by this. So she gets back in the truck. She starts driving. She ends up somewhere in the mountains, alpine territory, snow, hills, mountains everywhere. And she sees a Camp Utopia sign, like a campground sign. Car runs out of gas right about that moment. And she goes into the camp, and we see that it's basically a women's shelter run like a summer camp. And they're all called Linda, and they all have different activities that they do. And apparently she didn't wander into the camp. I guess she just wandered into the woods and passed out. She had woken up the next morning in one of the cabins.
I think, you know what? It was because of, I think she was following the getting to Camp Utopia situation. Because I was like, oh, and she just wandered through the woods and found this camp. No, she was actually looking for it. And I didn't quite get the impetus of it.
Well, right, because she did find because the Camp Utopia was on the postcard that she dug out of the cache. And she saw the sign and recognized it and pulled over right as her car ran out of gas and just started trudging through the snow. And it didn't show her like collapse or pass out or anything. It just cuts to her waking up the next morning in one of the cabins. And that's where we find out that it's, a women's shelter run like a summer camp. There's all these activities they do. They're all named Linda. And she's like, "Oh, I'm here for my Linda." And she says Linda Tillman. And we realize, oh, this must be Roy's missing first wife. Yes. And the Linda that's talking to her is like, "Oh yeah, that's Saint Linda." And Dot laughs like, "Ah," and she's like, and then she gives her a look, and Dot's like, "Oh, you're serious?" And you're like, "Oh yes, Saint Linda has helped us all, given us this wonderful place." And there's another Linda who's like cutting a phone pole or something, and she sees Dot down below. It's like, "Hi, Linda," and so it's kind of this chipper place, and so she ends up.
But when she walks in initially. Like there is a puppet show going on. I'm sorry for my.
Oh, that's right. You're right. I forgot to mention it. That's what happened. She fainted at the puppet show, and so all the women were watching this puppet show. It actually has a specific type of name. Let me pull it up. And
it's a trial. Oh no, what is it? It's like a Huckenberry show or a
something like that.
A John and Philip.
The puppet show they're watching is dramatized. Punching Judy. Yeah. That's what it's called. It's called Punching Judy. I don't know what that means.
It's a punch guy with a Judy. Someone's a good guy, someone's a bad guy, and then everyone's supposed to root for the person who punch. And then Judy is the one that you punch.
I've never heard of that.
Oh, well. Neither have I. I'm actually making a lot of this up.
it was something that let's see. Linda.
Anyway, research on the fly. This is the value of live shows, everyone. I'm going to go into the chat and ask what is Daniel's hot topic saying? So, Daniel's. Oh no, we can go. Shut up, Daniel.
Yeah, we'll get to that later. Anyway,
we will.
So I guess that's a Punching Judy thing. I've never heard of that, but okay. And you see the guy like Punching Judy or wherever, and they're watching it, and Dot just passes out, and that's when she wakes up the next morning. Is told about the camp, all that kind of thing. And she's walked to a gazebo where Linda Tillman is, and she immediately just tries to sucker punch her.
Oh, no, she does sucker punch her.
She does sucker punch her, and the other women hold her back. And Dot basically accuses her on the spot of having lured her to the Tillman Ranch as a diversion so she could escape and leaving her there to suffer. And they're
Yes.
like, well, we'll have to have a trial to discuss it. No, you're coming with me right now, and we're going to go
Yep.
back to Roy, and we're going to testify against him. It's like, well, I can't do that. You've left this place once already. You can't leave it the second. And either you can't leave it the second time, or you'll stay, and we have to have a trial. And
But they keep calling her Linda, even though, okay, so she's
yeah,
been Nadine now, and she's chosen Dot, but
yeah.
they call her Linda because she is part of this cult of abused women.
Right, and Linda is just like the chosen name for everybody there. And she tells him,
Yeah.
I'm not doing this trial again. I've already done this before. You know that. I've been here. My name's Dot now, remember? And it's been great for the last 10 years with my way, and it's wonderful. It's why I don't need to, have this catharsis with the puppet show. It's like, I've already been through all that. And they're like, no, we're having a trial. But she doesn't tell
Yeah.
them any of the urgency that she's really facing, which made me think there's something else really weird going on here. Because it's like, given the type of shelter it is, if there is this level of urgency, they would probably be more than willing to help. But she's not really telling them about that. Like, oh, we got to have the trial, blah, blah, blah. And so she goes back inside to see them cooking chicken frittata, the same type that
Okay, hang on a second. Before we move on to the chicken frittata, like, I do think that there is a certain level of empathy that is bestowed, like, or given by Dot.
Yeah.
Where she understands, like, these are all abused women. She's been
Right, she gets
an
it.
abused woman. And so pushing so hard, she wants to be straightforward. Let's just see, like, she could defend a gas station for her own health and the health of others, except for the poor clerk with the air horn. But, like, she is willing to accommodate. She's not
Right.
she's not Atomic Blonde. She's not
Well,
Long Kiss Goodnight. She
re-
is
but
an
she did
empathetic soul.
She did reluctantly accommodate this puppet show. She didn't want to do it. She just says, Linda, you're coming with me right now, and we're going to go deal with this. And Linda's like,
It
no.
was the most peaceful way to solve the problem.
I know. I just meant that it was. I was picking up on how bizarre it was. It's like there is a level of urgency here that she would not just sit around and wait another night and a day to do this, and yet she does. And she goes into the kitchen. They're cooking chicken frittata, the same that's on the that was the recipe that was advertised at the restaurant that she was at. And they're doing that. And that night they're sitting down at this big dinner table at like much like you would see at like a summer camp. The whole big great room. Everybody's sitting down, and she's sitting next to Linda Tillman, and she's like, if you wondered about your son, and that's when we find out that Gator is Linda Tillman's son. And she's like, he's kind of a little soft, and he just wants to be like his dad. And she's trying to appeal to Linda that, if you come back, there's a chance you could save your son and stop him from becoming his father. And Linda doesn't budge on it. She's like, oh, we're still having the trial. We're still going to do this. And failing at trying to persuade her to go with her that way, which was seemingly kind of extreme. I thought that would have been something that would have done it, but no. And so the next morning she starts carving the puppet, and that's when she eventually puts on this puppet show, which is really neat looking the way it's designed.
Oh,
it's wow.
Like the entire build up to the marionette show.
Yeah.
Essentially. Which is sort of the Punch and Judy that Dot walked in on. And the cinematography of this marionette show that represents a young girl who ran away from the wolves. The wolves were after me at the beginning, and then I found myself with a savior, and this savior took me home to another wolf. And then who I thought was a person who was trying to help me actually left me for bait for this animal. And that animal abused me, and what I thought was a friend ran away from me, deserted me with this. And I learned that the only reason that she invited me in the first place was so that I would take her place.
Yeah.
And I was abused for years, says the character of Dot, Nadine, Linda. It is an absolutely fascinating story, told emotionally, with violence, through the sound of knocking wood, through marionettes. This is
and shadow play and
amazing.
And it's crazy because you would think again, Noah Hawley said they're walking that fine line. Is like, is this too absurd?
No,
But it's not. It was really freaky, and it's like, especially in the beginning when she basically says, "When I got my first period, that's when all the wolves came out." And you see the wolf puppets come out of the trees, like trying to chase her, and that she ran away at 15. Was caught.
But there's like a 360-degree like shot, like it sweeps around the marionettes. There is no like, because you assume it's all going to be played as the puppet show.
But you do see the
front and
strings
back
still to maintain that level of realism for them being.
I'm
puppets.
fine with strings.
No,
I've
I like
seen
it.
America.
The realism of it, and basically she ran away at 15, got caught trying to shoplift, and Linda comes to her aid when the manager catches her and says, "Oh, well, of course you put the stuff in her pocket. You got rid of all the baskets. How else are you supposed to carry it?" And then she takes her back to the Tillman Ranch, and Roy's like, "Well, she's going to have to earn her keep if she's going to stay around here." And then, Gator's trying to talk up his dad. "Oh, yeah, you can do this or that." And then Roy hits Gator, and Linda's like, "Oh, Roy knows a lot about maths and science and all this type of stuff. He can teach you this stuff." And sure enough, that's when Nadine says that in the puppet show that's when she deliberately pushed me to him even closer with that suggestion, so that way she could get more time to herself to plan her escape or to finish whatever machinations she had for her escape. Had no intention with her.
They also like, and she says Linda got beat like a rented
she's very empathetic and sympathetic to Linda. And you see not only Roy beating Linda, but you see Gator watching from the hallway. And Gator's shown to be, of course, much younger because this is like, years before. And then when Linda's gone, Nadine gets beat even more harshly and thrown to the floor and hit with a big stick and beaten up by Roy. And his puppet has the same jacket and cowboy hat he has on. And then when they're back at the dinner table and Linda comes back from wherever she's been, she's like, "Oh, how are things?" And Roy's like, "They were great, right, Nadine?" And you see him putting like his hand on her leg and like really, grip on it. It's like so creepy. And she's like, "Oh yeah, it's fine." And then she's like, and then one day, Linda was just gone. Didn't take me with her. Didn't even take her son with her. And that's when it just got worse. And she doesn't go so far as to dramatize how she escaped. It's just because we know from Roy that
her denouement with the puppets, with the marionettes, is her being beaten.
Yes, it's her being beaten. And we know
and there are flashback shots of her, domestic abuse reports.
Yes, and you have the quick flashes of the reports that Lorraine was looking at in the file. And we know from what Roy mentioned earlier in the season that, she went out supposedly to go get beer or something and never came back. So eventually she had earned enough trust from Roy that he was willing to let his guard down.
Lemon Pie brings up a really good point. Dorothy's voice that she does for Roy is creepy and perfect. It is.
It is.
But it's also...
And it's so creepy and so scary. So then when we get to the next bit where the puppet show's over, Linda Tillman has forgiven Dot for hitting her and she immediately is empathetic to why she would think she did that. But then it seems, as she's saying that Dot is also starting to get empathetic about why Linda left her, and it wasn't so much a malicious thing as just complete desperation. You're at the end of your rope, you have to do something type of thing. And so Linda Tillman agrees to go with Dot, and they leave, and they're driving down the road, and they're having a nice chit-chat, and then boom, Dot wakes up, and she's still sitting in the diner looking at the pancakes, and she just imagined that entire thing. It didn't happen.
It's all a fucking dream sequence?
Yes, but
Boo! Boo!
But the puppet show represents the essence of what actually happened. And
I understand that, and I'm okay with that. I appreciate that's where we are. However, I do not like an entire episode that was a fucking dream sequence, Kat.
Not the whole episode. Remember, there were the other things I talked about.
All right, let's keep going.
But I did cheat because I had to read in the article. Noah Hawley says that the reason she envisioned the cache with where she got the postcard from,
Utopia,
that won't be answered until the next episode. So, what I want to know still is,
you will.
Where was Dot going to begin with? Because she leaves the diner having finished the pancakes now, And this truck, which was in desperate need of a runaway truck ramp, semi-truck, comes barreling into the parking lot, knocking these cars out of the way. One of them hits Dot.
Well,
She's knocked out, and she wakes up in the hospital with injuries. And she's asking, "Where's my friend? Where's my Linda?" And the nurse is like, "Well, I don't know. You came in here by yourself, but your husband's been really kind and waiting by your side every minute." And she's like,
wait, hang on a second. Whoa, let's reel it in. Let's reel it in for just 1 second.
"What? You wanted me to hurry up, so I did."
Well, okay.
Yeah, you said hurry up and finish, so I was.
No, but you missed a like an 18-wheeler crash.
I did mention that. I literally just mentioned that.
I didn't hear it, and you made it sound underwhelming.
Like I said, it was a truck in desperate need of a runaway truck ramp.
You said a truck. We're talking about an 18-wheeler that just flipped on its side. That's not a truck.
That's a massive truck is what that is.
It is a massive truck. You said a truck. Now I'm imagining a Ford 50 F-150. I don't know. I'm not from Michigan.
Yes.
Anyway, you were saying, so so it's all bullshit. It was all a dream sequence. And
so she gets
Dot gets hit by a car that was hit by a truck, and then she wakes up. And,
like I said, she wakes up in the hospital.
Yeah.
And she's like, "Where's my friend Linda?" And the nurse is like, "Well, you came in alone, but your husband's been here. It took us a long time to identify you, but he's been here the whole time." She's like, "Oh, that sounds like my Wayne." And she's like, "Yeah, he's the real looker." I'm like, "Oh shit!" And then the nurse leaves, and in walks Roy. He closes and locks the door behind him. He walks over, and he's like, "Nadine." And found you, Nadine.
What is the last thing he says?
He says, "I got you," as he puts his hand on her arm, and it's like, oh shit. And that's the end of the episode.
Not even "I found you," "I got you."
And the way he first says Nadine when he walks in there, the look on his face, it's like, this is the scariest that John Hamm has been in anything he's ever done. And he's just, and to think it all comes from the puppet. Like, we knew what Roy had been doing to her beforehand from the photos and the stuff like that, but the puppet show of all things just made it so creepy and dark. So when he actually walks in there with the shadows from half of the room being darkened as he's walking in and seeing the way he's like, Nadine, looking at her like that, it's like, oh shit, it's so intimidating and just really dark. Like, she's caught. And we still don't know where she was going to begin with. Like, she told her daughter that I've got to go do something. Like, it sounded like she was determined. Like, she had an idea of what she was going to do. And we don't know exactly where she is. Somewhere in North Dakota, I guess, where this happened. And now she's been caught by Roy.
But I just I don't appreciate a dream sequence, although that was a really good dream sequence. It justified the stylistic.
Well, it's kind of choices. Remember when she tells them that I've already done this? I'm thinking that what it's also probably referring to is it's also almost like a meta flashback, in that she probably ran away from Roy, went to an actual battered women's shelter where she probably met Linda Tillman again, told them the story of what happened, and they helped her get her new identity and take off. And whatever the purpose was for the cash, like he says, we'll find out why she thought Linda left her a cash next week. So she and Linda must have made up or done something, and she was probably going back to whatever that plot thread is. We'll find out next week. So on the one hand, yes, it's a dream, but it's in a sense rehashing what she already did. She escaped. She went to this battered women's shelter, which in reality, they're really dim and grim places. But for the people there, it's like, utopic compared to where they're running away from. And so that's why it's presented to us in that way. But it's essentially showing us what she's already done. It's just doing it in
Sucker Punch in one episode of Fargo.
Yeah, but it's doing it in a more heightened fantasy type element. So it's not like the whole thing. It's like, yes, it literally didn't happen, but figuratively speaking, it did already happen once, and we're just being shown that in a more fantastical way.
Like, how did Dot get to be? Like, are we just supposed to say that she's a street smart?
Well, she was
individual who knows how to fucking shit up.
Well, she was making her way on her own, because we still don't know, like, once she got away from Roy and presumably went to this shelter, got this identity or whatever, we don't know, because she didn't just immediately marry Wayne. So she must have had not just a different new first name, Dot, but a different last name as well. Because we found out her original name was Nadine Bump, and she became Nadine Tillman. Then she becomes Dot somebody before she meets Wayne. We still don't know how she met Wayne or how that works. Because Scotty's like, what, 8 or 9 years old, probably?
No, I think Scotty's like, I don't know, 11.
Well, she has to be younger than that because she's only been away from Roy for 10 years.
Well, and also okay.
So probably within.
What are you saying? What are you saying? How old do you think she is?
I'm thinking if she's like 9 or so, then maybe it wasn't very long after leaving Roy that met Wayne.
8 or 9 is fine with me.
Yeah, so she somehow, we still don't know exactly how she met Wayne or ended up in Minnesota, but it's, so there's still that part of the mystery to solve.
Oh.
But we now have several people who are going to be helping with this. We have the 2 FBI agents who want to do something about it, who so far have been effectively useless. So they're going to have some purpose later in the season. We have Whit Farr, who we've barely seen anything of, who kind of is a go-getter. We have Indira, and we're not sure what Indira's going to do after Lorraine made her that offer. We have Lorraine, who seems to be getting finally some sympathy for and empathy and appreciation, dare I say, for Dot and everything she's done after Indira gave her that lecture.
Yep.
And so we got there we got 5 people, and then Olay. And so we got 6 people right there who have it in for Roy. Oh, plus Dot. So like 7 people who have it in for Roy one way or another. And it's like, how's this going to who's going to do it? And how are they all going to play a role? Or some loose ends that ended up being like red herrings who have nothing to do with it by the end of it.
I called it before and I'll say it again. And I don't know if it's going to come to pass. We only have 3 episodes left.
Correct.
And I still think that Roy and company are going to storm Lorraine's house.
I wonder because with 3 episodes left, and since she is now in Roy's custody, there has to be a switch, a handoff of some kind to provoke Roy to even bother going back to Lorraine's mansion. Like there's something he must want there because he's wanted Dot this entire time. He has her. So what is going to bring him there? Like, is Lorraine going to find out that, they tried to kidnap Wayne and failed? Is she going to go to his farm maybe? Or is Olay pissed off going to take Nadine away from Roy as a way to stick it to Roy? Like, hey, I kidnapped her once for him. Now I'm going to kidnap her to get her away from him just as a big, F you to Roy. That could happen.
Well, all the speculation in the world isn't going to do a square root of jack squat.
You're right, it's not. But it does show all these different... But like I said, there's so many people who have it in for Roy that I don't see how they could satisfyingly give them all a significant role to play or one that means something. Because again, like I said, the FBI agents haven't done much. Whit Farr hasn't done much. Lorraine wants to do something, and Dot obviously wants to do something, and Olay wants to do something. So it's like there's all these different people that have a stake in it, and it's like I wonder how they're going to bring this, rein it all in the next 3 episodes.
It is very strange that everything has everything has come to a head. Like we've got all, as far as I'm concerned, we have Dot and Roy in the same room.
Yes, for the first time all season.
Yeah, and I can't wait to see how the next episode starts.
I do think we're going to find out what happened to Linda, like for real this time. Like,
let's hope. Well, I don't know.
Like Noah Hawley says, we will find out why she was daydreaming about the hidden cash that she and Linda apparently had. So we're going to find out what that means and what became of Linda, who essentially is still missing.
Sure.
And that makes me wonder, is now Linda is she still alive? Is she going to come back? Is she maybe starting a life in another state and going to be like, sorry, and not have any interest? I mean, we don't know. Or is she already dead from unrelated causes? Don't have any idea. So it is quite interesting.
Who's Vivian?
Vivian was the banker who got ruined by Lorraine last week because he called her lady and she didn't want to buy it. And Roy intimidated him into not accepting any offer from her. And when she found out about it, she reported him to the SEC because of violations with his improper banking, which is what led them to being in trouble in the first place. And that led to his sons getting expelled from college because they couldn't pay the tuition.
That is the entire backstory of Vivian, but the answer is no. We will never see Vivian again.
Yeah, we might not. I mean, after all, we didn't see Stavros again after season 1 with the way his character ended up. So,
and Oliver Platt is popular.
Yeah, and whereas this guy, I don't know who this actor was, but I think it just serves to show.
It was Carol O'Connor.
He was kind of serving as a hot potato between Roy and Lorraine, like the warm up before they go. Like you said, they're going to go at it at some point. Like you have these two alphas on either side, and there's going to be some type of a showdown. You're right. And the fact that the first episode had Lorraine having her Christmas card being holding all these big rifles and assault rifles, like, you're right. There's going to be either they're going to raid her place or she's going to raid his place. And it's going to, because she did say she wanted to buy an election. So we're going to find out, because the election, as Roy said, is right around the corner, like the following week. So,
no, Lorraine is going to be the sheriff of wherever.
Perhaps, yeah, because we haven't heard if she's going to run somebody against him yet. Or if
I want land, I tell you. Oh, by the way, again, this is my weekly reminder. If you enjoy Jennifer Jason Leigh's performance in this season of Fargo, I highly recommend you see the Hudsucker Proxy. She's doing the same thing, but on the way up, I tells yous.
I did read an article where she was talking about how they spent a long time trying to decide what type of voice she should have.
Nice.
Should she have the accent or not? And they wanted her to seem really intimidating and really intelligent. And the fact that she has that big painting that just says no behind her back.
Yeah, I love it. I want one.
So they had to think of that very, specific voice. Oh, you're not, one of those people. Because I have mixed feelings on Lorraine still. It's like, on the one hand, she's a real bitch. The way she talks down to people and insults everybody. And a lot of times for no reason. She just does it because she's just, she's just a bitchy type person. But on the other hand, I would pick Lorraine over Roy any day of the week as far as who has to win that fight, who would want to win that fight. Between whatever they would both be running against. Like, no, maybe I'd rather have Lorraine and deal with that instead of Roy.
But Wayne's dad.
Yeah, he was like in the first episode, and we haven't.
Oh, he went bowling. They went bowling like two episodes ago.
Oh, that's right, they did.
And it was like he was so apathetic. At least Lorraine is engaged.
Yeah, and Lorraine at least seems to care, because she says, "Oh, I'm fond of my granddaughter."
Mm-hmm.
That was the reason she let Indira come into her office, because she brought her granddaughter back to the house. And so she's like, "Okay, I'll respect you somewhat and give you, and let you in and to say your piece or whatever." Even though she ends up owning Lorraine in that scene, but so yeah, it's really interesting. And again, it's like you're running the risk of what you have in season 4. We have such a massive ensemble. Granted, I didn't finish that one, so are they going to bring that all together? But this is kind of a big ensemble, a lot of characters. How is this gonna? And what's going to be the resolution for Indira and her husband? Is she just going to leave him? Is she gonna take?
No, you know what? They're gonna scapegoat it. He's gonna make the golf tour. It's gonna be spring. He makes the golf tour and makes her proud. That's what they're gonna do with him. I'll bet you $2. No,
well, I don't bring down your fee to $3 because you still owe me $5 for Destiny Turns on the Radio.
Dude, I have so much money that I owe so many people. All right. So we're still watching for next week. We're still going forward.
Yeah, of course.
All right. I can't wait. This has been amazing. You sent me a message and you said, John Hamm is terrifying. He's the worst character in the history of villains. And then I saw the episode and I was like,
no, what I said was he was the most
down.
Evil. I said he was the most evil he's ever been as a character from his roles that he has played. This is his most evil character. I said, I don't know.
I just, it's been a long time since I've seen Baby Driver, and I think he's pretty mean in that one.
I will still have to watch that one. I keep forgetting. I need to watch that one.
All right. Well, okay. And also, speaking of things that you haven't seen, and in reference to things that I haven't seen, I still haven't seen The Nightmare Before Christmas. It is currently, as of this recording, after Christmas. I have to wait until next Christmas to watch The Nightmare Before Christmas. I'm sorry about my tardiness and my apathy.
You can watch that movie anytime. It's great.
I can watch any movie anytime, but I'm being difficult.
Fine. We'll see. I'm still got that in the back of my mind as to how that's gonna, how they're gonna bring more of that into the fold for the way the storyline of that film kind of plays out.
Can't wait for you to explain it to me because I gotta wait a year.
Are there any other comments?
I don't know. Lemon pie is yammering. No, wait. Yes. Are you sure it was a dream sequence or is there another explanation? Are you sure?
Well, yeah, because she saw all the stuff inside the restaurant, like the recipe and the Camputopia cards and the puppet show
Mhm.
ad, and then she daydreams about it, and the fact that she wakes up still sitting there means she didn't go and do any of those things.
I would say, like, visually, in terms of the bracketing of the smiley face pancake, that it was a dream sequence. Like, I think that that's a visual way to explain what you just saw.
Right, and like
Am I offside?
it's essentially her reliving what she already did when she ran away the first time, just in a more fantastical manner.
I don't know
Like,
who
like
Vivian
Holly
is. I
said,
forget
you can't
Vivian.
get
We
too
talked
dark.
about it, and I still forget.
Yeah, we looked at that one. See Vivian again.
If it goes along the lines of some Fargo seasons, many of them may die. Hooray!
Yeah, that's true, because not really any of the main characters have died yet. So that's still something we're waiting. That's actually kind of surprising. You bring that up now to come to think of it. We're 7 episodes in, and all the main characters are still alive.
That's true.
Or all the major supporting characters are still alive too.
Oh, we lost the guy who got fucking his face burnt off. He's not a main character. He was the Buscemi.
He was killed in the first episode, though.
He was the Buscemi.
The Buscemi ended up being the son who got hit in the face with the axe.
Yeah, fair enough. Ole is villainous, yet more sympathetic than Roy or Lorraine.
I think he's just been, like you said, eating everybody else's crap for way too long. Yeah, he is evil because he shouldn't have been kidnapping people for money, and that whole thing. But yeah, he is a bad guy. But I think he's going to be
Lorraine.
Yeah, don't.
Oh no, to Lorraine. Sorry.
Yeah.
I greened out for a second. Anyway, so yeah, I'm enjoying this watch along. I'm enjoying that people are watching along with us. Are you, like, next week? What? Oh, are you gonna be here to hang out? You gonna talk about episode? What is it? I did.
Well, I was saying we're thanking everybody. Daniel's Hot Topics, DVB, DJ Play Nice, Lemon Pie, Phantom Organist, whoever else I missed. And sorry, Daniel, we're not talking about the DC stuff today. The one thing I would say to your comment is it's important to remember that movie was never meant to be the end of the DCU, so it's not fair to judge it that way. It was supposed to be its own thing. But that's all I'll say about that for now. I did review it on the Positive Fandom channel, so you could check it out there. Yeah, and the Bird Network. Yeah, we will be back here next week, same time, same channel, for the 8th episode of Fargo.
Oh yeah, you betcha.